Now, a little while ago, and you may have heard about it on 702, it was an interesting competition that the financial services company PSG introduced. They called it hashtag PSG Think Big SA competition. And what they did was they invited people to come up with fresh, new ideas on the many, many problems that we have in this country, the problems that we have around job creation, around the economy, social problems, you name it. And they've announced their winners. They had a terrific panel of judges, including Professor William Kumede at Wits, also at Wits, Michael Sachs, Professor Philippe Burger was there from the University of the Free State, Faculty of Economic and Management Scientists, and Global Market Strategist Mamokete Dijane was also involved in the judging. So the bar was set very high. But the winner dealt with something that we have been talking about a great deal. In many ways, we've been talking about it for all the worst possible reasons. The issues around food safety involving spaza shops, and now more recently people who are informal traders outside school. But the nature of the township economy is a massive, massive question that we haven't got right in this country. But if we were to do so, so many other things I would suggest, and I'm not the first, could start getting better and falling into place. My next guest is the winner of this year's PSG Think Big SA competition. He's a PhD student at the University of Northwest, and we welcome Teboho Nthoana. Thanks so much for your time, and crucially, congratulations on your award.
No, thank you for having me, John, and thank you for the opportunity, and good afternoon to all your listeners.
So I've been looking through your paper, and there's a lot in it. We won't cover all of it, but I want to focus in on something that you refer to as micro-investment ecosystems, because earlier in the paper, you talk about how lack of finance is a problem for a vast majority of people trying to make their way in the township economy. Tell us what a micro-investment ecosystem is, because for me, an ecosystem suggests something circular and self-sustaining even, rather than saying, well, there's no money for small business. This sounds to me like something different.
No, it's actually not far off from what you actually spoke about, John. Micro investment ecosystems mainly speaks, it consists of micro finance instruments.
Right.
Which obviously small scale, businesses can take advantage of. So which obviously could consist of small scale investment. It could include things like your crowdfunding investment. It could include things like your peer-to-peer lending, venture capital funds, and even community-based investments. Or even it could even be as far as products provided by microfinance institutions, which could be your banks or your DFIs and the like. And the interesting thing about that, John, is that some of these things, it's not things that are really far-fetched, it's things that we already creating in the country, because, I've even in the study went as far as even showcasing some, communities as far as the Eastern Cape that are coming together to raise money to actually grow their businesses. And most importantly, even peer-to-peer, lending is something that really we do not take advantage of much, in our country. We're seeing the model of the likes of your Stockvels that are trying to really, make use of putting money aside, but mainly that for consumption purposes. So now you could imagine if implementing some of these things from an entrepreneurial point of view, it could really give us an entrepreneurial shift that I think we need as a country, and that we definitely could take advantage of.
Often, and I framed the conversation earlier around the issues that have come up with food safety in the spaza shops. It's easy to create the impression that there are not a lot of, that there is not a thriving culture of entrepreneurship in townships. But what you've written suggests exactly the opposite, that there's plenty going on, and the question is we're not tapping into it as we should. What are we not getting right?
The first thing that we're not getting right is understanding the bigger picture. To say all of us, whether we're informal economy or from formal to informal economy, that we're all working towards the same goal, which is improving the economy of our country. So therefore, hence, even with that, there's an issue where I've put emphasis on in terms of empowering the informal sector. So through even Triple P, which is private-public partnerships with the government, where we can really empower, small businesses. You say things, you've mentioned in terms of food safety, because right now, big business, and half of the time your big branded businesses, they're the one that takes those into consideration. But from a small business's point of view, those are neglected, hence that's why there's issues of hygiene that as well come into effect. And hence right now we've seen a splurge of poisoning that is actually coming into place. And these are the things that are actually being exposed now. So hence, obviously, if ever then government and private sector would come in to help really try to empower and inform informal sectors, so that it also becomes sectors by themselves, so that they're able to even self-regulate to a certain extent, so that we don't find ourselves in the crisis that we're really finding ourselves in. And most importantly, creating jobs, because studies have shown that an average person, is actually employed by small businesses. But half of the time, people, when you go to banks, if you are self-employed, you're running a small business, it's as if you are unemployed, or let alone you're doing nothing. Hence, obviously, from even a commercial point of view, banks don't entertain small businesses. Banks don't look at even empowering one of those entrepreneurs within townships for them to actually participate in the mainstream economy. That's why obviously I'm appreciative for the likes of PSG Wealth and that have come up with such initiatives, so that ideas like these can go to the public, and hopefully whether it's a government department or even a company could actually take advantage of seeing that there are solutions and maybe try them out.
So Teboho, one of the really enjoyable things in the paper you wrote is there's so many examples of different kinds of initiatives. One that caught my eye, though, that I know nothing about, and that seems to me to be somewhat different. Ikasi Bucks. Tell us briefly what that is and why you think it might point the way to the benefits of doing more of that.
Okay. In terms of things like in Ikasi Bucks, it's sort of like a currency that was introduced and mainly in the township and used by township spaza shops. So where else right now they could actually use it? Half of the time some of the people obviously are within the pension system. So with that, obviously they're able to actually get paid only at the month end. But currencies like those, it's them that they can actually be used. That even within the month when the money has not come in, they could actually use it. So to a certain limit, whether to take a meal or to actually take whatever that they need for them to actually use at the house. And month end when they're getting paid, they could actually fill it up to go actually go back to buy onto the store. And that on its own, it's also enforces small businesses to actually take advantage, to actually be able to be supported by this currency that they're creating, and most importantly, formalizing them to actually be able to become bankable. Because you'd know that half of the times with spaza shops and whatsoever, it's a hand-to-mouth kind of business, and there's not even a formal system as to accounting for some of, whether it's the stock that they have, or even maybe the budgets comes month end. That's why right now, with a currency like this, it's able to actually formalize them for them to be able to take advantage of such, and most importantly, have records of expenditures in terms of the amount of sales that they made and which items were fast moving and which items that they not. So that one day, when they get to speak to the bank or to a DFI, they've got a record that they can actually show from a participation point of view to say this is how well we're doing and this is how we're doing it. So that...
Thank you so much, Teboho Nthoana, and I've really enjoyed speaking to him, and I enjoyed reading his piece as well. He is the winner of the Think Big SA Competition 2024, funded by PSG, and really, really interesting to hear a whole lot of positive ideas and description of positive initiatives already underway in regard to the township economies, because much of the conversation we've had in the context of spaza shops and who owns them have tended towards the negative. The title of his piece, Inclusive Economic Growth, Building Sustainable Township Economies. He's currently doing a PhD at the University of the Northwest.